Good morning, depending on which time zone you're currently in. Thanks for joining. Again, I am Dr. Veronica Huggins, and I'm a native of Johns Island, South Carolina, which is one of the Gullah Islands. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here. Dr. Nubi and I would like to thank Dr. Sakanya Gupta for inviting us to be a part of the Global Salon series. The Gullah people have a rich heritage, and today we'll share just a snapshot of the culture and share why it should be preserved. So we will honor the legacy of the Gullah people during our presentation today. All right, so we will get started. As we begin, and before we actually share the culture, we'd like to just give respect to the Emmanuel Nine. They are among the fallen Gullahs. And on June 17th of 2015, they were shot and killed during a mass shooting during Bible study at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Emmanuel AME is one of the oldest Black churches in the US. The shooter expressed that he sought out the church because of its history and status during the civil rights movement. As with any shooting, it shook the Low Countries community among the Gullah people. So who are the Gullah people? So throughout the presentation, you will hear us say Gullah or Geechee, but it's used interchangeably, okay? So, 1 second. The Gullah was torn from their families in Central and West Africa. They arrived in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. They arrived by boat to the coastal plantations. The Gullah culture has been recognized for preserving the African linguistic and cultural heritage more than any other African American community in the United States. Gullah language has a primary significance to the Sea Islander culture. The vocabulary used in Gullah language connects terms from each origin, creating inclusivity and representing their West African ancestors. The blending of languages served as a means of communication between British slave traders and local African traders, but also provided a common structure to converse among Africans of different tribes. And here we have Dr. Lorenzo Turner. 1 second. Until the end, I have a little background information on him. Until the end of the 20th century, many looked at Gullah Geechee as broken English, characteristics of those incapable of speaking standard English. In the 1940s, African-American scholar Lorenzo D. Turner undertook a linguistic study to find out the origin and composition of the Gullah Geechee language. He discovered the presence of many words and syntax of West African language origins in Gullah, especially in languages still spoken along the rice coast of West Africa. He was actually exposed to the Gullah people as a professor when he taught at South Carolina State University. That led to him researching the Gullah language and its origin. He researched the influence of African languages on the dialect spoken by Gullah speakers. Then we just want to mention decreolization. Decreolization is a decline in grammatical diversity, use, and structuring Creole vernacular. The studies that we viewed concerning decreolization give some insight to improper English being spoken by African Americans. So initially, the Gullah language, it was thought of to be, or said to be, a broken language and not acknowledged as a language until, of course, till Dr. Turner started with his research along with others. It's important to consider the diversities in our society before grouping a race and labeling as the primary group that speaks improper English. Okay, so here we are going to, from this point, we're going to share more of the culture through natives. So we're going to play this clip for you. It's by Dr. Sun Michaud. He's the
Peace.
first
This is
and so
Dr.
far the
Sam
only
Show. And you
instructor
know,
of Gullah
too
at
often this
Harvard
exactly
University.
you say hello and goodbye in Gullah. Well, these are just a few examples. We'll say it now. We're glad to meet you. How if I do? Hello there. I'm pleased to meet you. How are you doing? Seaman, good evening, good evening. Where you say it, Bubba? Morning now. Oh, all right. I did now. Watch out there now. Well, look at ya. Church folk often greet each other with praise the Lord. And that could be your way of saying hello, praise the Lord, how will it do? Or goodbye. Okay then, I owe you. Praise the Lord. These are just a few ways of saying hello and goodbye in the Gullah Geechee language, but there are many more. Gullah Geechee salutations, or the way that you greet someone, is based largely on the dynamic between the speakers. Now, whether that dynamic is positive, negative, or neutral will be reflected in the way that you address one. That's it for now. Until next time, we out.
So now we have a few Gullah sayings. There are many, right? Because it is acknowledged as a dialect. So in Gullah, if we say "e true mount," in English, "he true mount," it means the speaker is referring to someone who doesn't lie. In Gullah, we would say "milk ain't dry off your mouth yet." In English, it means milk in his mouth isn't even dry yet, meaning describing someone who is young. There's another saying that I'm accustomed to, from growing up on the Gullah Island is "how can come you no Fabinya," and it's like if you are a Kamya, you're younger than the Binya, so it's pretty wise to listen to your ancestors and the person that's leading you. If you forgot something or you're forgetful, in English we say my head left me, or I forgot. In Gullah, "man, my head leave me." Everyone favors his own house. I interpret that as, we're gonna just kind of boost ourselves up, right? In English, every frog praises his own pond or favor his own pond. In Gullah, every frog praises his own pond. But again, those are just a few sayings. All right, so here we have the Moving Star Hall Praise House. The Moving Star Hall, there's the Moving Hall Singers. We'll show you on the next slide. Just 1 second. The Moving Star Hall Praise House is on Johns Island, South Carolina, and it is in the county of Charleston. And so the Moving Hall Singers, they were nationally recognized for their important contribution to African-American musical history. They are a multi-generational family group who belong to the Moving Star Hall, one of the last remaining praise houses of the South Carolina Sea Islands. Okay, and so here we have the Moving Hall Singers, and we're going to actually play a clip for those of you who know me and I know you. You'll see that the lady that's in the white, before we play, her name is Ruth Tootsie Blige. My son is actually, his name is Blige, and that's where his name came from. It's a family name, so we just took Blige out of Blige. And so her and relatives, they were very vital for the Gullah people, very vital Gullah people, or what have you. I didn't really know a lot about it. I mean, I know, about the Gullah language and who I am, but it wasn't until we started diving into the research, and then it's like, whoa, okay, I know this person, I know that person, but it's a little more impersonal for knowing them because it's my son's direct ancestor. So this is his great grandmother in the white shirt, along with other natives from Johns Island. So just a few of the Gullah artists. Here we have a lady. Art is really big among the Gullah culture. And when I say Gullah culture, I'm speaking mainly for Johns Island. That's where I'm from, and that's what I know. So I'm speaking with the life I live in through my lens. So I don't want to just box the Gullah culture in, but just kind of highlighting, what I've been exposed to. The sweetgrass basket, if you look to my right, the lady is weaving a basket. That's very, very common among the Gullah Island. It's a craft passed down from Sierra Leone. And then we have in the yellow a painting by artist Jonathan Green. And to the left, That's a picture of Gullah Christmas painted by Diane Britton Dunham. All right, so did we play was music playing as the participants entered?
Yes, yes.
It was playing. Okay. Dr. Sun, would you like to introduce the music we were hearing?
Yes, so the person that you all heard when you all entered the session today was the remarkable artist, Charleston raised, New Orleans grown, Kendra Joy. She's affectionately known as your favorite Gullah girl. And she's a radio personality, an MC, a mindfulness practitioner, and she's been a social worker in the New Orleans area, among other areas across the region for 20 plus years. And her specialization is children and families and mental health and mindful meditation. And she is grounded by her spiritual upbringing and her Gullah culture, and grounded in the music of her culture and her upbringing. So just wanted to shout out to our favorite Gullah girl.
Definitely, thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned about art, food is a really big connector within the Gullah culture. So I just placed a few pictures up to introduce you to a few. We have Miss Doris Dees. Doris Dees is my husband's maternal aunt. She's known as one of the Low Country Gullah cooks, and she has worked at Rural Mission for over 30 years. So anybody that has ever had an opportunity to visit Rural Mission on Johns Island in South Carolina, she's behind all of the good cooking. Actually, it was my first job that I worked with her, and it was truly an experience. You may know the second person, Cartier Brown. Let's see, she's known as the host on Delicious Miss Brown Food Network. She's from the Gullah Island. Her family's definitely from the Gullah Island. And then we have Miss Emily Maggette. Last year at 89, she shared her kitchen wisdom with the world. She's from Edisto Island, and I think she mentioned she never used the cookbook, but now she's the author of a cookbook. So a living legend among us. And then we have, one second, I didn't write his name down. BJ, I believe it's BJ. He's a known cook in the Gullah Island. So it's almost as I mentioned before with the Kamya and Binya, definitely Miss Maggette is a Binya, and the new up and coming cooks are the Kamyas, but they're keeping the legacy alive. I don't have these two, I don't have a picture of these two, but it's a unicorn chef, Laquana Saunders. She's one of my peers, and she's an amazing cook, and she keeps the legacy alive, as well as my uncle, Eric Simmons. He's known for his cooking among the island. And this is just another picture of Mrs. Maggette, and all her cookbook can be purchased on Amazon. It's just a picture here of some of our staples. To the left, we have red rice. It's a dish that's cooked with a tomato paste, sausage, onions, green peppers, and then you pour in the rice. Some people use shrimp, and it's absolutely delectable. We have blue crabs, and then shrimp and grits. And many of the cooks or just the natives have a variation of cooking all of the staples, but once you are in Charleston, and especially if you're a tourist, you will not go wrong with the cuisine. Nubian, did you want to explain this slide?
So here we find it very important to shout out some famous Gullah folks that you all may or may not have known. Our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, is of Gullah heritage. The country singer Darius Rucker, um, Michael Jordan, and the famous boxer Joe Frazier, and we have a civil rights leader Septima, and Denmark Vesey. And so Denmark Vesey. And so we wanted to shout out some famous Gullahs, folks you may have known or may not have known, who share the rich Gullah heritage. Thank you to my comrade, Veronica, for really being here today and sharing the rich culture and the importance we'll continue to talk about around preservation, around protection, around preservation, and around celebration of Gullah culture. This next piece will be around the importance of language and cultural preservation. Congressman James Clyburn is an instrumental person in the fight to preserve Gullah Geechee culture. And he was also instrumental in forming the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, which was a bill that fights to preserve culture by giving more resources to the community, addressing issues with land, which we'll talk about a little later, addressing issues with language, with education, with social services, and all sorts of things designed to protect and preserve the Gullah culture. So we wanted to shout out him and invite you to continue to look at Congressman Clyburn's work and his commitment to his home. In language, we spoke a little bit earlier about the Gullah language, and the Gullah language is the mother tongue of Gullah culture, and it reflects the diversity of culture and bridging culture from West Africa to the sea islands of the eastern, southeastern United States. The language for Gullah folks provides an affinity of kinship, of belonging, of creating bonds that are everlasting. And maintaining this language is critical for the survival of the culture and to pay homage to the ancestral folks. And the threat to the language and eliminating and even challenging, like my colleague was saying earlier, the perception that Gullah is broken English. That type of perception is problematic because as you all have witnessed, Gullah language and Gullah people, Gullah culture is a magical thing. And people have fought and will continue to fight to preserve culture for the sake of well-being now and for the future. With culture, as we talk about language in detail, Gullah language is communicated, as you have seen, is communicated through crafts, through food, through dance, song, folklore. And these pieces and the cultural and the language and all those pieces are a part of survival. And it's important to protect those things and to pass on, to show the value through generations and to pass on this beautiful magic to future generations. One important thing to talk about in preservation is land. There are various property laws that have been happening across the centuries in Gullah Geechee land and ownership that affect and has disproportionately affected Gullah Geechee families. And this is an issue that is unfortunately very prominent across the nation in marginalized in Black and Brown communities, particularly in the South. And what has been happening is a land grab. most Gullah Geechee land has been passed down over the generations, and that land has been passed down without lawyers or legal documentation, and is what we call heir property. And for those who may know and may not know about heir property, with heir property, in order for things to be sort of what you call legal, and have show clear ownership or clear title to the land, because there is no will or no legal what's deemed legal documentation. Somebody may have to go through hundreds of heirs, of descendants, to be able to get, legal documentation, or to even get FEMA disaster assistance, to be able to get assistance for a lot of government programs to help sustain people in their homes and help sustain the land. So you have these heir properties where you may have to go through 100 people, 20 people in your family, to get them to agree to sell the land, or to put the land in one person's name for easier transactions, or to renovate the home, or what have you, is very complicated. And so knowing this, developers have exploited this reality. And like I said, across especially the southern region of the US with Black and brown communities. And they have come in and offered cash to some heirs in order to evict people out of homes they've lived, land they've lived on for several generations. And another unfortunate thing that happens too, is that's a part of the land grab, is the taxes. When taxes are not paid, the money goes to the property, and the land goes to the city to be auctioned off for very low costs. And so you have the heartbreaking thing of people who've had homes and land for a century, who've worked hard, who've invested a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and having a home and having land to pass down, but no legal documentation in conjunction with the discriminatory property laws and the discriminatory processes with land and different things. So it's a very heartbreaking thing to have places that you have been born in, and places that you've known all your life be ripped up by developers. And like I said, heir property holders are often denied FEMA disaster assistance, which is a growing concern with the number and the increase of the rising climate concerns and the rising sea levels, and the many disasters, the hurricanes, the storms, and things that are more frequent and more severe. So not being able to get disaster assistance and the other assistance someone would be able to have, being a documented and legal property holder, it puts folks at another disadvantage for rebuilding your property after the storm, or getting things fixed after the storm, to be able to sustain yourself. And developers are able to come in and buy for low prices as well. And so this is, and I will continue, we will continue to talk about this piece, especially at the end. This is an environmental justice concern. Land and housing is an environmental justice concern. Now we'll take a time and move through looking at Gullah culture through theory. Well, we have chosen two specific theories that are near and dear to both of our hearts, and it's Bandura's theory of self-efficacy and the Afrocentric perspective. And specifically in our case, with us being social workers, we really value the Afrocentric social work perspective, which we'll talk about. And one reason behind us looking at the beloved Gullah culture through the theoretical lens is because we lack, especially in scholarship, the opportunity to talk about culture through a theoretical lens, especially the Afrocentric culture and even Afro-Indigenous cultures. We lack the space and the commitment to talk about these pieces through and actually explain them in a way that's fitting and that does justice to the actual cultural group. Self-efficacy is a culture trait of the Gullah people. And as the Gullah culture has high esteem and high confidence, and although there have been historical and current pains and a continuance of repressive acts against the culture, that could create a subconscious belief that may lower one's cultural esteem. Gullah folks are very highly esteemed and highly confident and highly connected to their ancestral and their present and their belonging in their culture. And Gullah folks also exhibit the high esteem to meet the needs of carrying on and celebrating the culture. And Gullah people believe in their abilities to move through all of the changes socially, pandemically, all of the changes that have been happening throughout history, and at the same time, enhancing culture and sustaining the gifts from their West African ancestors. Also, with Bandura and the idea around cultural self-efficacy, skills and the expertise in cultural preservation are evidence in what we've been talking about in our presentation today, the high skill and the deep commitment to preservation of culture. When Gullah folks set their minds to accomplishing a task, and they are unwavering in their pursuit and unwavering in their faith in the assignments, and the ability to conquer slavery and the continuous repression and oppression is deeply rooted in the unity of the culture and the unity in the spirit of the people. Gullah people were able to progress and still are able to progress and thrive through the many circumstances, especially from bondage and chattel slavery, because of the determination, the spirit deep in people to prosper and to survive, and not only to survive, to thrive for many generations to come. In conclusion, I hope you have gained a lot today about the magic of Gullah culture, about the things that are going on to preserve, and also the threats that are around to culture in this region. We want to leave you all with some things to ponder on as you all continue, and we call these the implications for social work practice. Like I was speaking about earlier, it's important to dive deeper into the intersections of housing and environmental justice as it relates to cultural preservation and the survival of people. It's important to amplify the voices, and I did not say be a voice for the voiceless. I said amplify the voices, and we use amplify because we believe that everyone has a voice. So we want to amplify folks' existing voices of their community to combat their own issues and to center folks directly impacted in the work. And in centering folks who are directly impacted, creating the way and the means and the support for people to lead and their own issues in their communities. We need more pieces around needs assessments and versus assumptions assessments, what we assume people may need. In Gullah Geechee communities, and as well as multiple and all marginalized communities, more assessments around need and more assessments that are culturally relevant and also involve spiritual pieces and involve geographical pieces. We need to start to expand our assessment process in across micro, macro, and meso systems. We need to expand our assessments so that we are capturing the true essence of people, so that we may adequately do what we say we're going to do and meet people where they are and have adequate interventions across systems. In reference to resilience, there is a push and pull resilient piece around resilience that we want to lift up. Resilience is the fact of the ability to be able to bounce back against adversity. We want to honor people who are resilient and bouncing back, but we also want to combat the things that cause them to have to be so resilient in the first place. So we want to, celebrate and do as much work as we do talking about the resiliency of communities. We want to do as much work as we can to combat those things that cause them to have to push to bounce back so many times anyway. So I want you all to continue to think about that, like how do we continue to do work on the front end with folks. More research about social work practice with Gullah Geechee communities is important. Participatory research where folks are participating and are valued and not just tokenized for their stories and their experiences, and building relationships. We know the importance of relationships in our work, and we know that relationships thrive on the speed of trust. And so we urge folks who are interested in this work to build relationships and build trust, and think of unique ways of reaching folks and of building community, co-building community. We lift up the piece around cultural humility versus cultural competency, because it's impossible to know everything about everyone, but it is possible to learn and to be present with the knowing and unknowing and the knowing and the things that we don't know about people. It is important to be to practice humility in what we don't know and be open to the knowing of people and the cultures. We need new theories. We need new theories to be able to understand people and to better co-build better societies. And we need theories that are unapologetic about exploring cultural and spiritual concepts of people. Again, that goes into the essence of people. The spiritual piece of people is the essence of folks. And lastly, to further explore the Afrocentric perspective. The Afrocentric perspective in social work comes from Clark Atlanta University, out of the Whitney M. Young Schools of Social Work, where Dr. Huggins and I met and both graduated from with our doctoral programs. We continue to pass on the knowledge around the Afrocentric social work perspective and the ideas around acknowledging a person's history. And it is a true account to looking at the person and environment theory that we use in social work. And it's an account to looking at the person and environment through a historical lens of how people have fared, and how systems have impacted people throughout time, and how knowing that our interventions need to be across systems need to be embedded with what we have learned of how these systems and how time have impacted people throughout their lives historically.
Thanks, Dr. Sun. I wanted to add just a few things before we, go to questions. I love how you spoke about the resiliency and self-efficacy among the Gullah people. I mean, just personally speaking, I was well aware of the word Gullah and aware that I had an accent, but what I wasn't really aware of was the rich culture that I was a part of. And for individuals that are from the Gullah Islands, it's important that we share with the younger generation, younger than my generation. Yes, you are from the Gullah Island, you're unique, but embrace your uniqueness. Because I remember when I went away to college, and the first thing that everybody asks, or just wherever I am, where are you from? And it depends on their tonation. If you're not sure and if you don't embrace your individuality, and, it was later on in life that I learned about, Kimberly's Crenshaw intersectionality and bringing all of you, or the double consciousness that W.E.B. Du Bois, presented to us. But it's like, we have to teach the younger Gullah generations, and I think it should be taught in the classroom. Yes, you are unique, you are resilient, and you're absolutely magical, as you said, Dr. Sun, because as soon as I say hello or what's your name, my name is Veronica, I'm often approached with, where are you from? Well, if you don't know who you are and you're not grounded, and you don't have the educators or the community to have you grounded and help you believe in your identity, it makes you feel like you're different, and it makes you feel like, whoa, where am I from? Like, so I don't belong here? Well, my new answer is, what you hear the ancestors, you hear the individuals who have made it, the resilience. Our folks were communitively isolated, and within that communitively isolation, they created a language among themselves to be discreet among the slave masters. So when you see me, when you see my culture, and when you hear Gullah Geechee, it's like resilience. Just this thing, these people were stolen from their homes, and hundreds of years now, it's still, where are you from? That's a great feeling, and it's something to embrace, because I am a Gullah girl. Gullah roots, that's who I am, and because of the fight, because of the resiliency, because of our people's ingenuity, it's like when I speak, you still hear the residue of my ancestors. So I think it's very important to share with the younger populations, like, yes, people will ask you where you're from, but your accent, and that's another thing, sometimes people hear an accent just from various cultures, and if you're unaware and you weren't taught cultural humility, you automatically think, ignorance. You think difference is ignorance, but no, it's difference. And we have to embrace it, or teach individuals, when you are from uniqueness, to embrace it, because if you don't teach them to embrace it, then it alienates them, and then you kind of hide who you are. Because I was, again, and if she's, I believe she may be on the call, Miss Jackie Grimble Jefferson, she actually came to our high school. She's a native, an amazing Gullah woman, and she exposed us in high school to families across the seas. Well, I was exposed to Gullah, so when I went to college, and it was, oh, those are the Geechee girls, those are, to me, it was offensive, but it wasn't offensive because I didn't know how significant of a culture that I belong to. So at this point, you can call me Gullah Geechee, you can call me whoever you want to call, but it's like, I understand the significance of who I am. there was a young lady yesterday, she made a post and she defended at Charleston Southern University. It's a, a college in Charleston, and her title was Gullah Geechee Educated, a case study on teachers' perception of culturally responsive teaching. And I reached out to her, and and I told her I'm just so happy to just see, because again, like I spoke about the Kamyas and the Binyas, this is a Kamya, and we're going to need the Kamyas to sustain our language and sustain our history. And I just can't really press the importance of helping individuals, because when you know who you are and when you carry that legacy of, whoa, I'm a survivor. You hear my voice, you hear the tonation of my voice, and it tells you, ooh, West African, her ancestors hailed from West Africa, and they sustained the treacherous agony that they were placed under. And on top of that, their folks created an entire way of communicating, because they were communicatively isolated on islands that you have to access by different bridges. So I just wanted to stress the importance of, even when you are among different, be careful how you approach. It's like, whoa, you have a beautiful accent. Where are you from? Or can you share a little more about where you're from versus where are you from? Right? Because it can be really insulting. So that's my spill. And then earlier I mentioned BJ, one of the cooks. His name is Benjamin Dennett, but affectionately known as BJ. And I also want to mention that because of social media, I feel like the younger generation is embracing the Gullah culture. We have with TikTok and Instagram and exposing our food. And now it's more of a phenomenon. And it's like, oh, wow. But the culture has always been amazing. It's just the exposure, even with myself, it's like I'm learning more about it. And now I feel like I'm obsessed, but it's just a great day to be a Gullah girl. So we welcome questions. Thank you, Dr. Sun. Oh, the video. Dr. Gupta, did you want to play? Okay.
Shared it with everyone. Yes,
Okay.
I just shared it with everyone in the chat. We do have some questions coming in, and we have about 10 minutes. So the first question is this: what are the socioeconomic conditions in Gullah communities, and do they differ from state to state? What are the main occupations of the Gullah people, and how much contact is there between Gullah and surrounding communities?
Okay. I guess I can personally answer that question. It's a complex question, but it varies. The socioeconomic status, it varies because it's not like they're communicatively isolated anymore. Let me put that out there. That's how it was in yesteryears, right? So it's the Gullah people are dispersed. They're everywhere. So the educational attainment, it varies. It's not like it's they're off, in a small place and no one, and can't access other people. Now we have access. So things have changed. Yes, we created our own communication, what am I trying to say? I'm sorry. We created ways to communicate, but that's no longer. Being a Gullah, being a part of the Gullah culture is just the icing on the cake, but we're blended among whomever. So the answer to the question is occupations, it varies. Socioeconomic status, it varies, and it depends on what the person is willing to work towards. But as far as the ingenuity, the preservation and resilience among the Gullah people, it's there. It just depends on like everyone. It depends on what you're interested in and what you're willing to work for. So thanks for that question.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, Dr. Huggins and Dr. Sun, how does your spirituality affect or inform your scholarship?
Dr. Sun, you want to go? That's totally you.
My scholarship is, my spirituality is everything to my scholarship. My spirituality is everything to my pedagogy as a professor. My spirituality is everything to my work in the community as a social entrepreneur. My spirituality is everything to me as a human being. My spirituality is everything to me, and it is the grounding force, because when we were talking earlier, it is my spirituality allows me to look and to seek out and to push for the essence, to explore the essence of people. And my spirituality grounds me also to promote humanity, promote the humanity and especially in my work with folks who are currently and formerly incarcerated. It forces me to work even harder because the carceral system is so dehumanizing. My spiritual grounding allows me to work even harder to restore humanity. And that's what social work is about. Everything we do, we're restoring humanity. And that spiritual piece allows me, and I'm unapologetic in it. It allows me, and it grounds me when academia is doing this, when the world is doing this, when everything is doing this, spirituality grounds me in what I know and the truths of things.
I'll say the same thing. My spirituality keeps me grounded, but I would say, depending on what you're researching, my research area is self-efficacy among vulnerable populations. So when I'm dealing with the vulnerability, I try to I lean back on, granted, my spirituality is, for me, it's my solid ground, but when I'm dealing with clients, and because of what I am researching and who I'm dealing with, I just try to encourage autonomy, and I help the clients to align themselves with what matters for them. So and for the most part, I kind of keep mine separate unless asked. With Dr. Sun is different because she's known more also as a spirit-filled practitioner. So it's like the work that she's doing, it's through creativity. So it allows her to combine her different intersects. For me, I kind of just go towards more autonomy for my students and clients.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but I have, I guess, one final question if no one wants to ask any more questions. It's this, like, how did you guys stumble on this research process? I know, Dr. Huggins, you mentioned like a personal connection, but so what drove this desire to research this very important culture?
That's a really good question. As I stated, when I went off to undergrad, I matriculated at Johnson C. Smith University, it's a historically Black college in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was an English major like you, Dr. Gupta. And so the thing was, how are you an English major and you're from Charleston, right? And so that was offensive to me, but I didn't understand at that point, I didn't understand the intensity of the insult and the significance of the compliment at the same time, right? And so as I thought about it, I was like, okay, I am from Charleston. What could I write about? It's English. Why do I have to do this? And then it became, hey, talk about the significance of the Gullah people. And so that's how it came to play, in 2002. And so from that point, it was just that, oh man, I want to learn more. I want to learn more. And then with Dr. Sun, once we connected, and just her love for culture, her love for just anything indigenous, and just, cultural humility, and we collaborated, and it's like, I get to talk about who I am as a Gullah girl, and then she gets to collaborate with the significance of just owning your authenticity. So that's kind of how it came about. And so now everything anytime we get the opportunity, we just try to share and just learn more. In a perfect world, we would like to do a documentary, like how it was on High on the Hog, because I think what's missing a lot with the Gullah people is we don't get to tell our story. Even as I talked about Lorenzo Turner, I think he was from Chicago, was a professor at South Carolina State, which is in Orangeburg, South Carolina, maybe like 45 minutes from the city of Charleston. And once hearing the Gullah students, it's like, wait a minute, what's this? Where are you from? So our people, one, we have to understand the significance of our culture, and then we have to tell our own stories. And I feel like we're running out of time because a lot of the greats, they're leaving, they have transitioned. And so you know what, we're gonna be left with what other people have said about us. So it brought joy to my heart when I read about Miss Megan Green. She just just defended 2 years ago in talking about culturally responsiveness to teaching, because we need our people to tell our stories again, because it'll be a disconnect between the Kamyas and Dinyas.
Mhm. And with that, I have through alignment, I guess, I have been welcomed even on a deeper level into Gullah Geechee culture. Kendra Joy, the artist and the amazing person we were talking about, is my fiance. And so that's another adoption into the color and the culture, and additional love, and even deeper love for the love and appreciation I had existing.
Thank you. And I just want to add, as you guys were presenting about the Gullah language, I was thinking of world literature, and how all these different Englishes are all legitimate, right? I mean, at least
Yes.
that's what I teach, right? All these Englishes, they're not broken English, they're not bad English, they're also English, right?
Right.
And I think that's what makes English also so interesting, right? This adaptability. But thank you so much, Dr. Sun and Dr. Huggins, for this presentation. As a reminder to everyone attending, this will be posted in the Global Studies webpage, the entire presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and for coming. Have a nice day.
And we
Thanks,
also have put the citation to the published article based on this presentation.
And one nice thing in South Carolina, their slogan is beautiful places, smiling faces. That's really embraced by or endorsed by the Gullah people. It's really true. So if you get a chance to visit, like, look it up. There are Gullah tours. You can just learn more about it. And once you increase your knowledge on anything, then it's like a greater appreciation for differences and just, embracing cultural humility. So thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for having us.
Thank you so much.